Discovery of the Massacre, the U.S. Prometheus glided through the void between stars, its sleek hull reflecting the distant light of the Kepler 186 system. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, watching the navigation display as they approached. Their destination, after 3 weeks in hyperspace, they were finally arriving at the Kythera refugee settlements. The bird-like aliens had been their closest friends since first contact 7 years ago, sharing their knowledge of faster-than-light travel and helping humanity take its first steps into the greater galaxy. Dr. Marcus Webb looked up from his research station, adjusting his glasses as he studied the latest xenobiology reports. The elderly scientist had spent the last 5 years working alongside the Kythera, learning about their unique physiology and culture. Their feathered bodies and melodic language had fascinated him from the beginning. Lieutenant Alex Petrov, the tactical systems, his young face serious as he scanned for any unusual activity. Engineer Rosa Martinez worked at the engine controls, her experienced hands making final adjustments to their approach vector. "Commander, we should be picking up their settlement beacons any moment now," Lieutenant Petrov reported from his station. The Kythera had established 3 large orbital habitats around the 5th planet in this system, each housing nearly 30,000 refugees who had fled their dying homeworld 2 years ago. Earth had helped them relocate, providing supplies and technology to build their new communities. Sarah nodded and walked closer to the main view screen. Something felt wrong, though she could not explain why. The usual chatter from Kythera communications networks was absent. Their musical voices should have been filling the radio spectrum with news, stories, and greetings for visiting human ships. Instead, there was only silence stretching across the empty space. "Dr. Webb, are you detecting any of their biosignatures?" Sarah asked, turning to the scientist. Marcus frowned as he studied his instruments, checking and rechecking the readings. The Kythera had a unique electromagnetic field generated by their nervous systems that human sensors could easily detect from great distances. "That's very strange, Commander," Marcus replied, his voice filled with concern. "I'm not picking up any of their usual biopatterns. In fact, I'm not detecting any life signs at all from where their settlements should be located." Rosa looked up from the engineering console, her dark eyes reflecting worry. "Commander, my sensors are showing massive debris fields in orbit around the planet. Large amounts of refined metals and composite materials are scattered throughout the area where the Kythera habitats were positioned." Sarah felt a cold dread settling in her stomach. She had commanded the Prometheus for 6 years and had learned to trust her instincts. Something terrible had happened here, and she was beginning to fear the worst possible outcome. "Red alert," she ordered, her voice steady despite the growing anxiety. "Raise shields and prepare for anything we might encounter." "Lieutenant Petrov, I want a full tactical scan of the entire system." The bridge lights dimmed to their emergency configuration as the crew prepared for potential danger. Alex worked frantically at his controls, his instruments probing deep into space around them. After several long minutes, his face went pale as the results appeared on his screen. "Commander, I'm detecting 3 massive debris fields in orbital positions around the planet. The composition matches Kythera construction materials, but everything has been completely destroyed. I'm also finding evidence of high-energy weapons discharge throughout the area." Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, trying to process what she was hearing. The Kythera settlements had been completely destroyed by some kind of military attack. 80,000 peaceful refugees, including thousands of children and elderly, had been living in those habitats. "Take us in closer, but maintain maximum alert status, she commanded. I want to know exactly what happened here and who was responsible for this destruction. As the Prometheus moved deeper into the system, the full scope of the horror became clear. Where 3 beautiful Cathara orbital habitats had once housed thriving communities, only twisted wreckage remained. Huge sections of hull plating drifted slowly through space, mixed with smaller debris that had once been homes, schools, and community centers. Emergency escape pods floated dark and lifeless among the ruins. Marcus stared at the destruction displayed on the main screen, tears streaming down his weathered face. Those habitats housed entire families, children who had never known violence, elders who carried the wisdom of their species. How could anyone destroy something so beautiful? Rosa guided the ship carefully through the debris field, using the mechanical arms to collect pieces of wreckage for analysis. Each fragment told part of the story of what had happened here. Scorch, marks from energy weapons covered every surface. The damage patterns showed that someone had systematically targeted life support systems and escape routes. Commander, I'm detecting a faint distress beacon, Alex reported suddenly. It's coming from the planet's surface, about 2 kilometers beneath the crust in what appears to be a natural cave system. Can you determine if there are any survivors? Sarah asked, hope mixing with dread in her voice. Alex worked at his instruments for several minutes before responding. I'm reading approximately 200 Kithara life signs in underground shelters. They appear to be in some kind of emergency hibernation state. Sarah felt a surge of relief that at least some of the Kithara had survived whatever had happened here. Prepare a rescue team. Dr. Webb, I want you to lead the medical assessment. Rosa, can you get us into a stable orbit for transport operations? The rescue mission took 4 hours to complete. Deep beneath the planet's surface, they found emergency bunkers that the Cathara had carved from solid rock. Nearly 200 survivors were in suspended animation, their bodies shutting down to conserve resources while they waited for help that might never come. Dr. Webb worked tirelessly to revive the survivors, starting with their community leaders, who could explain what had happened. The first to awaken was Elder Cathara, an ancient Cathara whose blue and silver feathers had turned white with age. Her large golden eyes opened slowly as the revival process brought her back to consciousness. Dr. Webb, she whispered in accented English, her melodic voice weak from the ordeal. You came, we had hoped, but feared you would arrive too late to hear our warning. Marcus knelt beside her resting platform, holding her delicate hand in his. Elder Cathania, what happened here? Who destroyed your settlements? The old Kithara's eyes filled with sadness as she began to speak. 3 days ago, ships arrived from the Hegemony Council. Massive warships with weapons we had never seen before. Their commander demanded that we immediately cease all contact with humanity and surrender ourselves to Council authority. Sarah stepped forward, her jaw clenched with growing anger. The Hegemony Council. We've heard rumors about them, but never had direct contact. Elder Cathenia's voice grew stronger as she continued her account. They rule most of the galaxy through fear and military power. The Council divides all species into categories based on their usefulness. Advanced warrior races, like the Vortha, serve as enforcers. Species they consider primitive become slaves or are eliminated entirely. What did they want from you? Dr. Webb asked gently. They said our friendship with humanity violated their laws. Humans were classified as a dangerous species that should not be allowed to develop space travel. We were ordered to choose between abandoning our human friends or facing complete destruction. Marcus felt sick as he began to understand what had happened. You refused to betray us. The elder's feathers ruffled with pride, despite her weakness. The Cathara have never broken a friendship once given. We told the council that humans had shown us nothing but kindness and respect. Your people helped us escape our dying world and build new homes among the stars. We would never repay such generosity with betrayal. Sarah's hands clenched into fists as rage built inside her. So they murdered your people because you wouldn't abandon us. The council commander laughed when we refused their demands. Elder, Cathania continued, her voice breaking with emotion. He said that our loyalty to humans proved exactly why your species was dangerous. Races that helped each other instead of competing for council favor threatened their control over the galaxy. The old Cathara struggled to sit up, urgency filling her voice. Commander Chen, you must warn your people. The council fleet that destroyed our settlements is heading toward Earth. They plan to eliminate humanity before you can become a threat to their power. Rosa had been monitoring communications during the rescue operation. Commander, I'm picking up a data burst from one of the destroyed habitats. It appears to be a final message that was programmed to transmit when human ships arrived. Put it through, Sarah ordered. The main screen filled with the image of Elder Cathania as she had been 3 days ago. Her feathers still bright with health and her eyes clear with purpose. The recording had been made just before the council attack began. To our human friends who may find this message, the elder's recorded voice began. If you are seeing this, then our settlements have been destroyed and most of our people are dead. We chose to die rather than betray the friendship you showed us when we had nothing to offer in return. The recording showed views of the beautiful Cathara habitats as they had been before the attack. Children played in gardens filled with plants. From their homeworld, artisans created beautiful sculptures and music. Scientists worked alongside human researchers on projects that would benefit both species. The Hegemony Council fears what humanity represents, the elder continued. For 1,000 years, they have ruled through division and competition. Species fight each other for council approval, never uniting against their oppressors. But humans are different. You form alliances based on friendship rather than fear. You share knowledge freely rather than hoarding it for advantage. The scene changed to show the first council warships appearing in the system. Massive vessels bristling with weapons, their dark hulls marked with the symbols of hegemony authority. They have given us 1 hour to decide between abandoning our human friends or facing destruction. We have already made our choice. The Cathara will not purchase their lives with treachery. The recording ended with Elder Cathania looking directly into the camera, her golden eyes blazing with determination. Tell your people that our deaths must not be meaningless. The council will come for Earth next, believing they can frighten humanity into submission as they have frightened so many others. They do not understand that humans cannot be broken by fear when fighting for something they believe in. Sarah stood in silence as the message ended, her mind racing with the implications. The Cathara had died because they refused to betray their friendship with humanity. Their sacrifice had given Earth time to prepare for the coming war. Set course for Earth, maximum speed, she commanded. Send an encrypted message to Fleet Command. Tell them we have a code black emergency and that humanity is about to face its greatest challenge. As the Prometheus jumped to hyperspace, Sarah made a silent promise to the dead Cathara. Their sacrifice would not be forgotten. Earth would respond to this genocide with everything they had, and the Council would learn that humanity never abandoned its friends and never forgave the murder of innocents. The war was coming, and humanity would be ready. Earth's response and first strike. The emergency session at Earth Defense Command had been running for 18 hours straight. Admiral Victoria Kane sat at the head of the conference table, her steel-grey hair pulled back severely as she studied tactical reports from across human space. The walls of the command center were covered with holographic displays showing fleet positions, resource allocations, and intelligence data about the approaching Hegemony Council forces. President Maria Santos had arrived from Geneva 6 hours ago, her face showing the strain of coordinating humanity's response to an existential threat. Secretary of Defense James Liu worked frantically at his tablet, calculating how quickly they could mobilize Earth's scattered military forces. Dr. Elena Busquets, the head of weapons research, presented her analysis of Council technology based on the wreckage collected by the Prometheus. The energy signatures from their weapons are unlike anything we've encountered, Dr. Vasquez explained, highlighting key data on the main display. Their plasma cannons operate at temperatures exceeding 50 million degrees, enough to vaporize our strongest hull materials in seconds. However, their targeting systems appear to be designed for large, slow-moving targets. Admiral Kane leaned forward, studying the tactical implications. What about their defensive capabilities? Impressive, but potentially vulnerable, Alina continued. Their shields can absorb enormous amounts of energy, but they seem to rely on raw power rather than sophisticated modulation. They've never faced an enemy that could adapt quickly to their defensive frequencies. Captain David Torres stood near the tactical display, his weathered face reflecting years of special operations experience. Admiral, with respect, we're talking about 300 human ships against an estimated 8,000 Council vessels. Superior technology won't matter if we're outnumbered 25-1. President Santos spoke for the first time in hours, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's survival. Captain Torres, what would you recommend? Should we attempt to negotiate with the Council? David's expression hardened as he thought about the images from the Kithara settlements. Madame President, you don't negotiate with genocidal maniacs. The Council murdered 80,000 innocent civilians to send us a message. They've made their intentions clear. Admiral Kane activated a new display showing intelligence reports from across the galaxy. We may not be as alone as we think. Dr. Webb's contacts with other species have revealed widespread resentment against Council rule. The Andromedans have been fighting Council tax collectors for decades. The Centauri free traders refuse to follow shipping regulations. There are dozens of species that would love to see the Council weakened. But will they fight alongside us? Secretary Liu asked. It's one thing to resist Council policies, another to openly declare war against them. Alina Vasquez had been working on her tablet during the discussion. I may have a solution to our numerical disadvantage. Our asteroid mining operations use focused gravity beams to break apart large rocks. With some modifications, those same systems could be weaponized. Admiral Kane looked interested. Explain. We have over 2,000 mining platforms throughout the solar system, Alina continued, her excitement growing. Each one has the power to fracture objects the size of small moons. If we could coordinate their targeting systems, we could create a defensive network that extends far beyond Earth's orbit. Captain Torres studied the mining platform locations on the display. That's brilliant, but how do we get Council forces within range of essentially stationary targets? President Santos smiled for the first time since the crisis began. We make them come to us. The Council expects us to scatter and hide like every other species they've threatened. Instead, we consolidate our forces around Earth and dare them. to attack our homeworld directly. Admiral Kane began outlining their strategy. We'll position our fastest ships at the edge of the solar system to provide early warning. When the Council fleet arrives, they'll see what appears to be a desperate last stand around Earth. Their arrogance will drive them to finish us quickly with a direct assault. Meanwhile, our mining platforms will be hidden among the asteroid belt, powered down and undetectable, Alina added. When the Council fleet moves into the inner system, we'll have them surrounded without their knowledge. Secretary Liu raised a concern. What about civilian evacuations? We can't risk Earth's population on a single battle. We evacuate no one. President Santos declared firmly, if we lose this fight, there won't be anywhere in the galaxy for humans to hide. We make our stand here, and we make it count. 2 weeks later, the hastily assembled human fleet took position throughout the solar system. Admiral Kane commanded from the UES Defiance, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. Captain Torres led the stealth squadron aboard the UES Shadow, equipped with experimental cloaking technology. Engineer Rosa Martinez had volunteered to coordinate the mining platform network from Ceres Station, her expertise crucial to the success of their trap. The Council fleet arrived exactly as predicted, dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system with overwhelming force. 8,000 warships formed a massive wall of metal and firepower, their dark hulls gleaming with the symbols of hegemony authority. At their head flew the flagship Dominion, a kilometer-long dreadnought, bristling with enough weapons to destroy entire planets. Commander Vorthak Krenel stood on the bridge of the Dominion, his reptilian features twisted with contempt as he observed the human defensive positions. The mammals had positioned their pathetic fleet around their homeworld, exactly as intelligence had predicted. 300 small ships against the might of the hegemony would be over in minutes. Open a channel to the human fleet, Krenel ordered. Let me speak to their commanders before we destroy them. Admiral Kane's image appeared on the main screen, her expression calm despite facing impossible odds. I am Admiral Victoria Kane, of Earth Defense Command. You are trespassing in human space and are ordered to withdraw immediately. Krenel laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. I am Commander Krenel of the Hegemony Council. You will surrender unconditionally and submit to Council authority. Your species has been classified as a galactic threat and will be relocated to designated containment worlds. We've seen your idea of relocation, Kane replied coldly. The Cathara trusted you once. 80,000 of them paid for that mistake with their lives. The Cathara chose their fate when they refused to abandon their friendship with your dangerous species, Krenel snarled. They died because of their misguided loyalty to humans. You have 1 hour to surrender, or Earth will share their fate. The transmission ended, and Kane turned to her tactical officer. Send the activation signal to all units. Operation Righteous Fury is now in effect. Throughout the solar system, human ships began their carefully choreographed dance. The main fleet appeared to fall back toward Earth in apparent panic, drawing the Council forces deeper into the system, hidden among the asteroids. 2,000 mining platforms powered up their gravity beam arrays and began targeting calculations. Commander Krenel smiled as he watched the human retreat. All ships advance to Earth orbit. We'll finish this quickly and move on to processing their colonies. The Council fleet surged forward, their massive ships easily outpacing the smaller human vessels. Krenel's confidence grew as his forces approached the inner system. The humans were behaving exactly as every other species had when faced with hegemony power. Sir, we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the asteroid belt, reported the Dominion's sensor officer. Krenel barely glanced at the display. Probably mining equipment the humans are trying to convert to weapons. Irrelevant. Continue the advance. Admiral Kane watched her tactical display as the Council fleet moved into the trap. Rosa, are your platforms ready? Engineer Martinez responded from Ceres Station, her voice tense with concentration. All 2,000 platforms are locked onto targets. Gravity beams are charged and ready for coordinated firing. Captain Torres, are your stealth ships in position? David's voice came through clearly, despite the interference from his cloaking systems. Shadow Squadron is ready, Admiral. We have targeting locks on their command ships. Kane took a deep breath and spoke the words that would begin humanity's war for survival. All units, execute Operation Righteous Fury. Show them what happens when you murder our friends. The asteroid belt erupted with invisible death as 2,000 gravity beam arrays fired simultaneously. Focused beams of gravitational force, each powerful enough to shatter small moons, converged on the Council fleet from every direction. The effect was devastating and immediate. Council warships that had withstood plasma fire and energy. Weapons found their hulls crumpling like paper under the crushing force of artificial gravity fields. Massive dreadnoughts twisted apart as opposing gravity beams tore them in different directions. Smaller vessels simply imploded as their structural integrity failed completely. Commander Krenel stared in shock as his seemingly invincible fleet disintegrated around him. What is this? What kind of weapons are they using? His tactical officer's voice shook with disbelief. Sir, they're using mining equipment. Civilian. Industrial machinery converted to weapons. It's impossible. Nothing is impossible. Kane's voice cut through their communications. You made the mistake of underestimating a species that turns tools into weapons when we need to defend our friends. Captain Torres led Shadow Squadron out of concealment, their stealth ships materializing behind the surviving Council vessels. Human torpedoes, guided by artificial intelligence systems, sought out the weakest points in enemy armor and delivered precisely targeted explosions that crippled ship after ship. The battle lasted only 30 minutes, but when it ended, the Council's invasion fleet had been completely destroyed. Of 8,000 warships, fewer than 200 escaped to hyperspace. The Dominion itself drifted powerless, its engines destroyed and life support failing. Admiral Kane opened a channel to the crippled flagship. Commander Krenel, this is Admiral Kane. Your invasion has failed, and your fleet is destroyed. You have a choice now. You can die with your ship, or you can carry a message back to your Council. Krenel's image appeared on screen, his reptilian features twisted with rage and humiliation. What message, human? Tell your masters that Earth remembers the Cathara. Tell them that humanity does not forget our friends, or forgive those who murder innocents. Tell them that if they want to destroy us, they'll have to bring everything they have, because we'll never stop fighting. Kane's expression hardened as she delivered the final warning. And tell them that we're not alone anymore. Every species you've oppressed, every world you've enslaved, every culture you've tried to destroy will be watching this battle. They'll know that the mighty Hegemony Council can be defeated. As the surviving Council ships fled toward the edge of the system, Admiral Kane opened communications to the entire galaxy. This is Admiral Victoria Kane of Earth Defense Command, broadcasting on all frequencies. Today, humanity struck back against genocide and tyranny. The Hegemony Council came to our homeworld with 8,000 ships, believing they could frighten us into submission. The transmission was picked up by species across the galaxy. carried by communication networks that the Council could not control. They were wrong. We destroyed their fleet and sent the survivors home with a message. No species should have to live in fear of Council oppression. No culture should be forced to abandon their friends to satisfy the demands of tyrants. On worlds throughout the galaxy, oppressed species looked up at the stars with new hope. The humans had done the impossible. They had faced the full might of the hegemony and emerged victorious. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked with communication specialists to ensure the message reached every corner of known space. The age of hegemony rule is ending. Humanity calls upon all free species to stand together against tyranny. We will not abandon those who stand with us, just as we will never forget those who were murdered for refusing to abandon us. The war was far from over, but humanity had struck the first blow. For freedom, the Council would return with greater numbers and more advanced weapons, but they would face a galaxy that was no longer afraid. The Cathara had died to preserve their friendship with humanity, and their sacrifice had lit a fire that would burn across the stars until every species was free to choose their own destiny. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the stars and thinking about the battles to come. The Council had awakened something they didn't understand when they murdered the Kithara. They had created an enemy that would never surrender, never compromise, and never forget. The galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk.